Okay. Sounds very good.
So the recording has started. I want to welcome everybody to today's technology showcase, which will be presented by Brad. Brad is working for us in San Francisco in the business intelligence field, and he's working together with the team in the Ukraine, who he will be introducing. And they've together developed some technology that we've actually deployed at a customer site in San Francisco at Sephora. And he will today showcase the technology and how we can possibly reuse it at other client side. With that, Brad, please take over.
Okay, let me, how do I grab link presenter here?
You already presented.
There it is.
Everybody's a presenter on my...
Okay, and then let me just... let me know when everyone is seeing this in glorious color.
Okay, I'm seeing it.
Everybody else got it?
Yeah, everything fine.
Yes.
All right, good deal. Well, hey, good morning. Thanks, everybody, for turning up. Of course, I'm Brad. We're going to be talking about a partition management suite that Jan and Alex developed for our project out at Sephora. And again, I want to underline that they did all the development and all the troubleshooting and design on it. So full credit goes to them. This was a really, what I think was a really nice piece of development and excellent initiative on their parts to get this done. And, my goal is to kind of show you what we were doing. Maybe it will strike a chord with some of the work you've done. And, maybe there is some reuse possible, or maybe we'd even like to extend these tools. That's kind of the thinking I had. So anyway, this is the old way that we were doing things. As you can see, it worked, but was not very reliable. Then Jan and Alex stepped in, and this is our new way of doing things, organized, simple, and fast. Just kind of an overview of what it is. It's 4 packages that we use to manage SSAS partitions. Actually, real quick, does everyone here have a pretty good understanding of SSAS partitions, or would you like me to do some background on that?
If you don't mind, a couple of words background, because I don't know much about SSAS, and I don't think people do. Thanks.
It's actually a very parallel technology to partitioning within SQL Server. Essentially, you can take a large measure group. Let's take order transactions, for example, a fact where you would have millions and millions of incoming facts every day. To simplify processing and maintenance, what you can do is split that measure group up into partitions. So rather than having to process and manage the entire fact every single day, you can process just the newest partition and add it. So it offers very substantial performance improvements. You're not doing nearly as much work. As well as, I think it keeps the data manageable. And it's, a very essential technique, I think, for dealing with, the larger data sizes that we're working with. So that's what partitioning does. It breaks a large monolithic set of facts into smaller manageable chunks that can then be processed and maintained independently. What was interesting, partitioning is a very common technique. It was interesting when I got to Sephora to see that they have, last time I checked, a little over 3,000 partitions, which is a little on the high side. The SQL CAT guidance is that you don't ever really want to exceed 2,000. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But entered Sephora. It was a very highly partitioned environment. And we discovered very early on that deployment and development was very tedious around partitions, utterly tedious. So let me show you how we used to have. Well, actually, this is a great diagram that Jan and Alex came up that shows just kind of the general outline of how we develop partitions. We start with a copy, we do our implementation, we process the relevant partitions, and then when we're ready to go to production, we add new partitions, we process them, and then we deploy. And of course, all this was manual. So let me just switch gears real quick here. Here we go. Bear with me as I full screen this. So this is what the process looked like when we started. You would have to, this is the actual production environment. And as you can see, this is just one measure group of about a dozen. And as you can see, many, many hundred partitions. Well, 1 second, they are sweeping my street. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can see many hundred partitions, and these need to be kept in sync with the development environment, which we have down here. Let's just take a look. Again, many hundred partitions, and these need to be kept in sync. So what you would do when it was time to deploy is you would find the appropriate range here in production, which looks like it goes all the way down to 2014 316. So we would go down to the development. Let's see what we have. $296. So just for this one, we have 20 to migrate. So that process looks exactly like this. You pick the first one you need to migrate. In this case, 297. There we go. And of course, I wanted to show the delays and there we go. So you do this, you would make any modifications you need to make to database ID. If that's changing, double check your slice. Then you would promote it into the development environment, which is just an execution. So that is a single measure group, and we had 20 to do. So if you look at the total number here, for a single deployment, you could easily end up creating over 100 different partitions manually. And I'm not going to say, other than being tedious, that process is very likely to fail. I kept spreadsheets, I used DMV queries, but even then, you're checking lists against lists, and it's entirely possible to make a mistake. So what Jan and Alex came up with, let me show you the new way. That was the old way. So, you saw taking a single partition took around 30 seconds to a minute. In our new world, we just run the package, it checks, and adds all the relevant missing partitions with the correct slice, and we're good to go. So that is a remarkable enhancement in our process. As far as the actual main package here, it's relatively simple. It's configured through SSIS variables. Let me expand this just a little bit. Kind of what you'd expect, just database configuration. A couple that are interesting. The post date is the date that you want it to configure partitions through. So for this example, I did through the start of next year. So it will create all partitions needed through 1/1/2015. And then you can, there's some additional configuration, whether you want to process or if you're in test mode. So you can see just this single package offers a really tremendous enhancement to how we were doing things. So that's the first module. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. So this is being used to synchronize production to development in order to continue your development in the sprint. Is this also usable in a production environment to automate the generation of partitions?
Absolutely. You could use this anywhere. Another usage that we have found is it's really useful for testing different partitions. If you want to try a different scheme out in a development environment, this makes it very easy to create them.
Okay.
And then we get into kind of the next package in the process here is a little bit more complex. This one actually processes each partition if it needs to. This similarly is controlled through a series of SSIS variables that lets us set some of the analysis services processing settings, which are very useful. And then it actually pulls the configuration for the measure groups from an XML document right here. And you can see this is where the bulk of the measure group configuration is done. And here you define what the slice looks like, what the, very importantly here, what the mask looks like, how you want it to be created and named. And you can see that we've gone through and then set this up for every measure group. So this package is a combination of two configurations. You need to do the variables to assign and manage the SSIS package performance, and then you need to configure this so it knows what measure groups to process. And this lets us basically then process measure groups that are ready to go after they've been added. And you can actually unprocess things as well, which is very useful too. So this is more of a testing tool and validation tool, but it's proven to be very useful. The next one that I'd like to show that this is a really powerful one here. Every partition has what is called a slice, and you can think of it. This is essentially like the where clause in a T-SQL statement that binds the partition to a particular range. Like, for example, you might have a partition that is bound to the week of November 1st through 7th, and that would be controlled with the slice. The problem is that, once you've partitioned and created a bunch of partitions, it used to be a very tedious process to change the slices. You'd have to remove the partitions, go in and recreate the new ones. This package, rather remarkably, lets you change the definitions of all the partitions in a particular queue. For example, if you wanted to change a partition from, let's say that you wanted to go from a daily partition to a weekly partition, you could do that using this package. And furthermore, it's helped us identify bad slice definitions and correct issues with actual partition definitions. So this is another one that is actually very useful and has proven a really great help for us. And then the last one is almost purely a development and QA tool, but it has gotten us a lot of good data. And this is process in times. This basically lets you run, let's say that you've made some changes and put out some new partitions. If you just wanted to process them, say, 10 times in a row to gather some performance data and see how your changes have impacted things, this is the package for you. This package can, you configure it again through variables, and it's a similar process. You can configure the number of times that you want it to process, which measure group you're looking at, and then it just literally goes through and does it. So this is a really useful testing tool. So that quick overview, that is basically what we've got. It's a series of 4 packages, and it helps streamline your deployment and development processes. Any questions? Any comments?
Yeah, I have a question. How portable are those? If I were to want to use this in a new environment, how would I go about porting those SSIS packages?
Well, Jan and Alex did a really good job. They're very portable, as you can see, connection configuration is done through variables. So in this case, it would be just a matter of setting the new connection information for this package, assigning it the correct cube, the correct database, and I think that's it. So essentially, you would redo the connection information. For more complex packages, let's take a look here. Like the processing one, you would need to modify the control XML document. You'd want to fill these in with the correct measure groups for the cube that you were working with. But these are all relatively simple. The only part that has a little bit of complexity to it is defining the mask. And Alex has put together some very good documentation on that I have, that I'd be happy to share with anybody who would like to give this a shot.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that's, basically the high-level view. It is, I think, relatively simple to use, and it certainly has helped our deployments. It did get me thinking.
I'm just seeing that Tom has a question. He's wondering if this can also be applied to partition managing on SQL Server rather than on analysis services.
As written, no. It is. We strictly wrote it in scope for analysis services, but I think a modification of the basic technique could pretty easily be used to do SQL. I mean, there are already a lot of tools out for SQL Server partition management, but I think that we could easily create a similar tool that could do SQL Server partitions as well.
Okay. Are you using any particular SSIS packages, or you just execute MDX against analysis services?
I'm sorry?
Are you using any particular or special SSIS packages for managing partitions, or is it
nope, it's all these guys. These are essentially all we need. And no MDX. This is all pretty much straight out of the box functionality. I believe that there is, let's take a look. I know that there is a little bit of, there's some C# scripting, isn't there, Alex?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a C# script and get measure groups, for example, in this package. So.
But are you using SMO in this at all, or Alex? Are you guys using C# to just hit the SMO object?
Yeah, we use C# to take data from these configs, from XML configs, and then use some data management views to determine, for example, list of measure groups, list of partitions, something like that. Yeah,
but you're not using SMO? Are you using SMO or not using SMO?
I don't understand what using.
When you're doing the processing of the cubes, are you using AMO or SMO in the C# code to process the cubes?
To process, we use just XMLA and that's all.
Okay,
XMLA commands and that's all.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right.
So yes, this is the basic script that Brad just opened.
Let's see here. Okay. And I managed to lock up Visual Studio. Very nice. Get out of that real quick. So yeah, that's just kind of the overview. You know what? After using this for a little bit, I did have some thoughts. And I haven't worked with the product side of DBVest as much as the consulting side. But yeah, what I would love to see along the lines of Will's question is more of a GUI-based, kind of like SQL. I don't know if anyone's used Redgate's SQL Compare Suite. I would love a tool that was kind of on that level. Kind of a front-end tool that could interrogate two different analysis services instances and then give you a report of all the differences, and then create synchronization scripts. To my take, I've never seen a tool like that. I mean, there's plenty for SQL, but very, very few for analysis services. So I was thinking that that might be something we want to look at. I don't know. That's beyond my development expertise, but it certainly was an idea that came to mind.
Let me ask you then, with regards to that, so Brad, the scenario that you described definitely fits the vision that Dmitry had when we started the database compare suite, and he would like to see more types of objects that the tool can compare. Now,
okay.
Now the question with regards to the project that you just presented, it's like, what is our technical abilities today to compare those packages? Because, we can look at how to apply that technology to the existing product, but I'm not quite, I just don't know enough about our abilities to actually compare those scripts.
Gotcha. Well, we have, and Alex, if you want to speak to this, I know that we have a package that does some basic comparisons.
No, it's mostly for the data, not for the structure.
Right, that's the data. You're right. Yeah, I don't think that we have anything in these packages that's capable of doing a comparison like what I'm thinking about. But to reemphasize what Will was saying, I mean, I think that there's certainly a lot of opportunity to use SMO to interrogate and build a list of objects and then do a comparison. I mean, I think that's certainly a well understood technology.
Yeah, and actually, as a matter of fact, if you use AMO, you can use C# to do even a lot more with full administration of the SSIS cubes. AMO is actually very robust in terms of creating dynamic programmatic, functionality for SSIS cubes.
Yeah, I would actually love to see more of that. It was a great. I mean, this particular project was Jan and Alex really stepping up. They identified a problem and they built a tool for us. I would like to see if maybe if there's a market, maybe we could look at exploring a more general tool that does substantially more.
So just to support that initiative, my practical suggestion would be maybe for Alex and Jan to go back and look at this area and to see, how hard would it be for them to come up with the such a script comparison method, which developers would be able to integrate in the product, but the developers who build the tool not necessarily familiar with this particular area, so they need to be told how to do that.
Okay. I think that's a great idea.
So let me ask Jan and Alex if you are interested in this assignment.
Yeah, actually,
spare cycles, if you want to take a lead on that.
SSIS project is just an XML, so you need to compare only XML, and actually any developer can do it. So it's not a big deal here with structure comparison. And Redgate have a tool for it, SSIS compare. So it's not something unique, but definitely we can.
So it's like if you look at the product development cycle, you observed how we did it with SSMA, and I don't know if you actually participated in the data compare suite development, but usually the way it happens is that the database guys come up with a kind of spec, or at least like even a requirement document where you say, okay, this is the features that you would like to get to the product. This is how we want this to look, and it doesn't need to be fancy, but at least conceptually present what you want the product to do. You suggest how it should be done. If it's a matter of comparing SSIS packages and cubes, this is how we parse those cubes, and this is the field that we are looking at. And then the developers can take it and put into their product planning. And, they do have spare cycles here and there, and they actually would be able to run with that. But they need to see that ask coming from you with the direction how it would work.
Okay, I got it.
All right. Well, Are there any other questions, comments, feedback?
I have a comment, but I'm actually really happy to hear you finally.
I am so sorry about the mic problems. I'm glad we got that resolved. Well, yeah, and again, I would like to thank Jan and Alex. This was a really, really great tool that has very much improved our process. I think that, we actually have never had a failed deployment because of it. But when we were doing it manual, there were definitely a couple times it was close, where I had to do manual partition corrections right as we were deploying. And I think everybody knows that's no fun. That's not a good place to be in. So despite, not only is this helping us, I think, with actually speed, which is very important, I feel a lot more comfortable doing a deployment knowing that all the discrepancies have been solved programmatically. To me, that just strikes me as the right way to do it. And I think the quality that we can deliver is a little bit higher.
Very good.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming.
As Adi would say, automation is good, right?
Automation is everything.
Yeah, if you have to do anything twice, automate it.
Yeah.
I would suggest, this is Dmitry, I would suggest maybe to create doesn't have to be very long, but maybe kind of write up so we can put it on our blog.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good idea. We can get something out of this.
Okay.
But yes, it will involve some typing.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, maybe a couple of screenshots just to. And I do understand that we would need to, I guess, somehow remove the Sephora proprietary information from it.
Yeah, I can do some screen manipulation and blur out or create a test environment.
Yeah.
Either way, it's.
But just to kind of share that, saying, hey, this is a type of the project that we've been involved, and so share with the world.
All right, I can get that done. That's not a problem.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, and I appreciate you coming out this morning. And I'll send everyone a copy of the presentation as well as a copy of Alex's technical notes, which are very helpful and contain substantially more information about configuration.
Yeah, Brad, if you can package that up and send it to me, I'm going to add the presentation from the recording, and we'll make it available to Irina, who then can put it on SharePoint for everybody.
Great.
Okay, sure.
Thank you very much, Brad. There's a couple of things I'd like to mention. I would like to continue the technology showcase. At least do one once a month. Anyone who would like to present something in the technology showcase, please send me an email. I can manage that and organize it and keep recording and publishing it. Help out with anything you need. Please feel free to send me an email with suggestions or anything that you're currently working on or working on in the future or in the past that you'd be interested in presenting in a 30 minutes to 60-minute presentation. Well, to everybody else, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thanks again, folks, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions afterwards, and I hope this can be helpful.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.